Good afternoon to all. Myself, Dr. Ashwini Tiwari, Faculty of Soft Skills in IIMT College of Engineering, Greater Noida. I would like to allocate non-verbal communication today. Generally, we know it very well that there are five basic types of communication. First one is verbal communication. Second one is non-verbal communication. Third one is intrapersonal communication. Fourth one is interpersonal communication, and last one is extrapersonal communication. I would like to highlight on the following points: non-verbal communication, differences between verbal and non-verbal communication, principles of non-verbal communication, importance of non-verbal communication, types of non-verbal communication, forms of non-verbal communication, advantages of non-verbal communication, and disadvantages of non-verbal communication. When we define non-verbal communication, we can find the following results. Non-verbal communication is the transmission of messages or signals through a non-verbal platform such as eye contact, oculesics, body language, kinesics, social distance, proxemics, touch, haptics, voice, paralanguage, physical environment, appearance, and use of objects. These are the aspects of non-verbal. Next thing is differences between verbal and non-verbal communication. Verbal and non-verbal communication are all types of communication, but the core difference between them is that we use our voice in verbal communication and we use our body signs in non-verbal communication. This is the core difference between verbal and non-verbal communication. We use our voice in verbal communication while we use our body signs in non-verbal communication. Next thing is the principles of non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication conveys important interpersonal and emotional messages. Non-verbal communication is more involuntary than verbal. Non-verbal communication is more ambiguous. Non-verbal communication is more readable. Importance of non-verbal communication. Verbal and non-verbal communication plays an important role in how people interact with one another. People are using around 35% verbal communication and 65% non-verbal communication in daily life. Usually, a in personal life as well as in professional life, people usually 35% verbal communication and 65% non-verbal communication in their daily life. Next types of non-verbal communication. There are two types of non-verbal communication: intentional non-verbal communication and unintentional non-verbal communication. What do you mean by intentional non-verbal communication? It means a person wants to do that point, that thing, that is called intentional non-verbal communication. For instance, pointing out the finger, giving smiles and clapping, etc. And raising the hands and shining the tata, bye-bye, etc. are the intentional non-verbal communication. Next thing is unintentional non-verbal communication. It means an individual don't want to do that thing, that is called unintentional non-verbal communication. Touching the face and neck and vibrating your leg while seated. Touching the face, yawning, sneezing, vibrating your leg uh, while seated. That is the types of unintentional non-verbal communication. Next point is forms of non-verbal communication. Eye contact. When you gauge something, when you look something, when you uh, interrupt something, when you see something, when you look something, it means it's also a part of eye contact. Next thing is facial expressions. Posture, facial expressions is also a part of non-verbal communication. Is also a part of non-verbal communication. Posture, haptics or touch, gestures, personal space, etc. are the forms of non-verbal communication. What do you mean by eye contact? Eye contact, since the visual sense is dominant for most people. Eye contact is an especially important type of non-verbal communication. The way you look at someone can communicate many things, including interest, affection, hostility, or attractions. It's also the major part of non-verbal communication. Next thing is facial expressions. Facial expressions are the key characteristics of non-verbal communication. Your facial expressions can communicate happiness, sadness, anger, and fear, etc. When you show your inner feelings by your face, it's also an aspect of non-verbal. Posture conveys information about interpersonal relations, personality traits such as confidence, submissiveness, and openness. Haptics and touch. Haptics, touch and haptics is the characteristics of non-verbal communication and used when we come into physical contact with other people. Example, we use handshakes to introduce ourselves and gain trust. When you use your when you use your haptics or touch, it actually means that you are a confident fellow and you are trying to denote your inner voice, inner feelings to someone. Gesture. A gesture is a characteristics of non-verbal communication in which visual body actions communicate particular message. Gesture include movements of the hands, face, or other parts of the body. Personal space. Personal space is your bubble, the space you place between yourself and others. This invisible boundary becomes apparent from only when someone bumps or tries to enter your bubble. That is called personal space. Next thing is, what are the advantages of non-verbal communication? First one is easy presentation. Using silent, audio-visual, and visual non-verbal communication techniques, information can be easily delivered in non-verbal communication. Repeat. Used to repeat what was spoken verbally. Stance, point in a direction while stating directions. Third, help illiterate people without utilizing spoken or written words. This communication style uses gesture, facial expressions, eye contact, proximity, touching, and other physical cues. Therefore, it is quite beneficial to those who are illiterate. Next advantage is it is helpful for disabled people. Non-verbal signs of communication are extremely helpful to people with disabilities, particularly deaf people. Deaf people communicate by moving their hands, fingers, eyes, and other body parts. Fifth aspect of advantage is reducing wastage of time. Fast delivery of the message was achieved through non-verbal communication. Because of this, it cuts down on the communicator wasted time. Next thing is, what are the disadvantages of non-verbal communication? Long conversation are not possible. In non-verbal communication, the great demerits is long conversation are not possible. Long conversation and essential clarifications are impossible with non-verbal communication. No persons may talk about the specific issues raised by the messages. Difficult to understand. It requires a lot of repeats in non-verbal communication, and it also needs help understanding because It communicates with others by gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, touching, etc. It may be difficult for simple and ignorant theme. Next disadvantage is costly. Non-verbal communication can be extremely expensive in some situations. For instance, neon signs, PowerPoint presentation, movies, etc. are quite expensive compared to other kinds of communication because you have to go to cinema hall for movies, you have to buy a laptop. It may be costly in some situations. Lack of formalities. Like other forms of communication, non-verbal communication has no set norms, formalities, or structures. People often move their bodies differently to communicate non-verbally, unconsciously, and habitually. Lack of formalities. It's also a great demerit of non-verbal communication. Like other forms of communication, non-verbal communication has no set form norms, formalities, or structures. People usually move their body differently to communicate non-verbally, unconsciously, and habitually. It may be a great demerit for anything because meaning will be changed by some situation. For instance, you are indicating for eating something or in uh, for drinking. It may be difficult to understand to another. Non-verbal communication may be used by facial expression, things that you don't really say, but they say a lot about you. Non-verbal communication has a lot of agendas also. What is non-verbal communication? Characteristics of non-verbal communication, types of non-verbal communication, color and cultural influences, improving non-verbal communication. But as in previous slides, already I elaborated that non-verbal communication has been defined as communication without words. It means when an individual use their body movements, haptics, body parts, facial expressions, inner feelings, it means he is or she is using non-verbal communication. It includes apparent behavior such as facial expressions, eyes, touching, and tone of voice, as well as less obvious messages such as dress, posture, and spatial distance between two or more people. It directly means that facial expressions, eyes, touching, tone of voice, use of rhyming tone, use of proper accent, use of native tone or non-native tone, use of proper pitch or intonation in a voice. It's also a part of non-verbal communication, as well as less obvious messages such as dress, posture, and spatial distance between two or more people. If you are participating in an interview, when you are participating in a face-to-face conversation with an individual, it directly means that when your dress, your posture, your facial expression can communicate a lot of meanings about you. A communication where actions speaks more than words, that is called, according to social anthropologist Edward T. Hall, in a normal conversation between two persons, less than 35% of the social meanings is actually transmitted by words. Anthropologist Edward T. Hall elaborated that 35% of social meanings is actually transmitted by words, but at least 65% of it is conveyed through the body, non-verbal communication. Next theme is what are the characteristics of non-verbal communication? Intentional and or unintentional, ambiguous, primary, continuous, multi-channel, etc. Types of non-verbal communication, kinesics, paralanguage, vocal interferences, spatial uses, presentio, etc. Eye contact, staring. If you are staring something, if you are staring to someone, if you are gazing to someone, it directly means you are giving a challenge to another person. Next, parts of eye contact is glances. If you are glancing something, it means socially acceptable timing. You are accepting that theme. You are accepting the opinion of other people. You are accepting that theme of that person or viewpoints. Next theme is appraisal. It means may in. It means you are trying to enter that theme. Facial expressions. Facial expressions reflect emotion, feelings, and attitude. Facial expressions denotes a lot of meanings about you. If you are happy, it seems by your eyes. If you are feeling emotionless, it directly means that your facial expression will express it. If you are feeling attitude, you are adopting ignorance, you are adopting arrogance, it directly seems it at your face as well as gestures. Gestures of a person includes attitude or movements. For instance, for example, when a boy is sad, he may droop his head and walk slowly. Gesture of a person also denotes a lot of meanings about a person. A lot of meanings about a person. When a boy is sad, he may droop his head and walk slowly. When a boy is happy, she might run and jump, stand up straight and put her hands there. When a boy is gloomy, he may be lose his confidence by nodding his head. When a girl is gloomy, he may be cry by their gestures and postures as well as postures, reactions of an invasion of your space, getting defensive, becoming aggressive, retaliations, postures. Postures has a lot of meanings in non-verbal communication. Reactions to an invasion of your space, getting defensive. It also denotes the posture of that fellow, becoming aggressive. It's also a aspect of non-verbal communication, retaliation. Touch or haptics. Touching and being touched are essential to a healthy life. Touch can communicate power, empathy, understanding, etc. Touch, haptics or touch is also a major part of most important aspect of non-verbal communication. It denotes the power, empathy, understanding, etc. It also denotes the feelings of someone's also. Paralanguage, pitch. Pitch means higher and lower tone of voice. Volume means uh, volume means quality of sounds. Rate means pace of pace of voice per minute. And next is quality. Quality means uh, characteristics of a voice. Intonation is also a part of pitch. It, it, these are the theme of paralanguage. If a person using higher pitch, it directly means that he may be aggressive, or a person who is in lower voice, he may be a cool person. Volume, same as rate. Rate has a lot of characteristics in paralanguage. Paralinguistics features of vitamins. 120 to 220 words per minute are considered as a average tone. Vocal interferences. Extraneous sounds are words that interrupt fluent speech, etc. In some situations, people use Extraneous sounds are words that interrupt fluent speech. Ah, yeah, no, yeah, etc. Filler. Spatial user. Proxemics has four aspects: intimate distance, personal distance, social distance, public distance. Intimate distance is 0 to 4 feet. Personal distance is 4 to 12 feet. Social distance is 12 to 18 feet. Public distance is 18 to maximum. These are the types of proxemics. Territory is also a part of non-verbal. Self-presentation cues, physical appearances, time chronemics, and olfactory communication. These are the self-presentation cues. Physical appearances. It directly means that when you use your proper dress code, when you use your proper facial expressions, when you use your proper gesture and posture, movements of hands, self-confidence, proper tone, proper pitch, proper qualities of words, it's also a core theme of physical appearance. Time means how many times you take to reply something, how many times uh, you are taking for present yourself, and these are the self-presentation cues. Some other elements of non-verbal communication: personal space at workplace, your office, your desk, a table in the cafeteria that you sit at regularly is also a part of verbal communication. Personal space at workplace, your office, your desk, a table in the cafeteria you sit at regularly. Color influences of communication. Some colors are the most important aspect of non-verbal communication. Yellow cheers and elevates mood. Red excites and stimulates. Blue comforts and soothes. Black suggests mourning. White suggests purity, etc. Cultural influences. Non-verbal signals vary from culture to culture. In some cultures, different body posture, different body movements has different meanings. In the United States, it's a symbol for good job. Hum expression is symbol for good job in United States. In Germany, the number one. Germany, it seems the number one. In Japan, the number 5. In Ghana, an insult. In Malaysia, thumb is used to point rather than a finger. In Asian countries, mostly Asian countries, it denotes a okay. Improving non-verbal communication. How will you improve your non-verbal communication? When sending messages, be conscious of non-verbal behavior. Be purposeful in use of non-verbals. Make sure non-verbals are not distracting. Match verbal and non-verbal communication. Adapt to the situations. These are the aspects of improving non-verbal communication. When sending messages, first aspect of improving non-verbal communication is be conscious about non-verbal behavior, be purposeful in use of non-verbals, make sure non-verbals are not distracting, match verbal and non-verbal communication, adapt to the situation. While receiving messages, don't automatically assume, consider gender, culture, and individual differences. Pay attention to all aspects of non-verbal communication. Use perceptions, checking, etc. Conclusion: at last, we can conclude that non-verbal communication plays an important role in how we convey meaning and information to others, as well as how we interrupt the actions of others during conversations. For business professionals, giving of the right non-verbal cues in is extremely important. Non-verbal communication has a lot of meanings, and it must be used in proper way. Thank you